Yeah. So see here. So the first thing, as we mentioned already, so I'm briefly explain one by one what we are going to be covering as of now. Yes, Inanna. So we have some traditional models and we have latest model as we mentioned as well. So traditional models, if you speak about the very popular models are waterfall model. Before this, like we just understand a basic idea of what is SDLC. So SDLC means software development life cycle. So that means to develop an application or to develop a project, what are the steps crossing from capturing the requirements to deliver the project to the customer. So what are the steps we are crossing, or what are the steps we are involving, that phases are we call technically SDLC phases or SDLC models basically. So for example, if you go for a general SDLC, see whether you go for waterfall or Agile, so the steps are not changing, the steps are fixed for every model, but how you're executing or how you're implementing, that depends on the model to model, that's all. Okay, so SDLC model means, so it's a software development life cycle which consists set of phases from gathering the requirements to deliver the requirement, delivering the outcome to the customer. So in between whatever we are performing or whatever we are executing, that phases only we called as SDLC phases or SDLC model generally. So the very most important thing is, like, it is even important for understanding your project work. And that's what I'm covering, the first very most one. So like if you want to do a project in company or in internship or in your academics, like whenever you want to do, so these steps are very important. So the first one is requirements gathering. So requirements gathering means, as we know, if you want to develop the any particular project, first we need to understand what is exactly client expecting, or what is exactly the requirement given by the end user. So that first we need to understand very clearly, so that we can execute or we can implement the things very properly and clearly. So without knowing proper understanding of requirements, it's very difficult to implement the project. So that's why you should more clear on requirements, and as much as you can draft the requirement from the end user. So instead of just writing high level requirement, you can get more and more clarifications on the requirement if you have any doubts. Like for example, you are not clear with the requirement, so give a connect with the client and ask the doubts and clarify. So still you have doubt, one more time you can connect with the client, ask the doubts, like that. Whenever you feel everything is clear and everything is complete, so until that you should focus on the gathering the requirements. A good requirement is always having a feature, like it's a simple, and also it's a non what we can say, the diplomatic. That means the requirement is very, it should be very clear, like we can easily understand, and also it should be implementable. So that kind of set of requirements you need to gather from the end user. And then after gathering the requirements, you need to analyze them. So you need to understand them, so whether we can able to implement that particular requirements given by the client or not, whether we can able to achieve that particular, I mean that whether we can have such set of softwares or resources what required for project development. So that all kind of analysis we need to perform, like analysis in terms of feasibility study, like feasibility analysis, like software feasibility and financial feasibility and resource feasibility and operational feasibility. These are all things we have to take care as part of analysis. And also you need to understand very clearly all the functional and non-functional requirements of the respective project. So functional requirements means what are the requirements which are actually implemented as part of the project or as part of the requirements, that is we call functional requirements. But whereas what are the attributes which are part of quality, like example performance, security, compatibility and usability, these are all undergoes non-functional requirements. So these two we need to understand clearly as part of analysis. And the third thing also, we need to understand what is the scope of the application, like who will use this application or where we can implement this application, and what are the limitations or what are the challenges of the application. that in terms of risk analysis. So what will be the risk in future, or what is the risk at present of the project? So that also we need to understand and analyze in the analysis phase. So these two very very crucial for project success, because if you did some mistake or some wrong direction in the requirement analysis, that leads to other all continuous steps will be in wrong direction, so it leads to obviously failure. So we should more focused on requirement gathering and analysis before start any project. And once analysis completed, so then we have to start the designing of application. So what do you mean by design, sir? A design nothing but making a prototype or making a blueprint for an application. Like example, before constructing a house, like what we will generally do, we'll draft a blueprint, and based on the blueprint the people will construct the house. Similarly, before going to detailed implementation of the application, just draft a dummy, what we can say that layout as a kind of system model which will reflect the actual one, but it's a pictorial representation, it's not the actual one. So such kind of things will help us to understand what exactly we are going to be developing and what exactly the expected outcome. So that is the way design will help you to clearly understand what we are going to be doing in the coding part. So now once design completed and once it is approved, that means everything is covered as expected, then we need to do the implementation. So that is nothing but coding part. So now we have to write a code for the design, like using any one programming language like Python, Java, .NET, whatever the feasible technology or client feasible technology. So based on that, you need to implement the respect to business requirements. So the requirements whatever given by the customer, we need to implement. So once implementation done, or once the execution of requirements completed, then we need to perform testing on the requirements. Why? Because before deliver to the customer, before showcase to the end user, we need to confirm ourselves, is it everything covered, or is it everything completed, or is it everything working as expected. So to do that, we need to perform testing after the implementation. And after that, so after once testing completed, then we need to deliver the project to the customer. I mean to say, you need to deploy the application to the client mission. So delivery. And at the time of delivery, if we found any issues, we need to fix them and we need to deliver the application to the customer. So definitely once delivery completed, then customer will start to use this particular application. So while he will using the application, maybe he may get some issues or some enhancements, some bugs, whatever it is. So that all we need to take care as part of maintenance. So that means as part of maintenance will come bug fixes and also enhancements. So maintenance, okay, yeah. So these are the 7 steps in generally any project development includes. So first one, requirements gathering. So after requirements gathering, we will get a document called generally BRS, that is business requirement specification. And after analysis, like as I mentioned, it's a completely understanding or a kind of discussion with the team what is going on and what we are planning to do. So here we will get SRS, software requirement specification. And after that, design. So this is what exactly I told you, templates or diagrams. So it's a pictorial representation what we are going to be doing in the project. And obviously, as I mentioned, implementation nothing but coding part. So whatever the code we were using in programmatically, so that will be part of implementation. And after that, I mean that the code is the output, executable code will be the output here. And after testing, we will get some reports like test cases. Means what do you mean by test case, sir? Ante a test case is a document which is used to cover the all the scenarios what we have in the application. Like example, if you consider login application, so if you want to test the login, we need to verify the login with the valid username, valid password, invalid username, valid password, invalid username, invalid password, and valid user ID, invalid password, like that. So all combinations we should test it, because we should give application to the customer with all possible scenarios. So also sometimes if you are expecting what in the application, if it is not coming, we will raise the bugs to the developer. So that is we call bug reports. And finally test report. So this is all the things what we are submitting after testing to the customer, like this many bugs we reported, this many cases we are executing, like that reports we are sending. And after delivery means your outcome, obviously. So outcome is nothing but your application only after delivery coming to the end user. In the maintenance, as I mentioned already, bug fixing, while we are using the application client, if we found any issues, we need to fix it, and also we need to do if we require any enhancements. So so these are the outcomes of the respective phases in generally SDLC. Like, yeah, before that, do you have any doubts as of now? Yeah, good. So now, in the same, whatever the seven phases we are addressing, if you go for academic way, like in our case, what we will do in the requirements? Definitely, in requirements, we will mostly focus on abstract and introduction. So something like existing proposed and advantage disadvantages, and also we may focus on some of the modules, high level modules. So that are all will come under the requirement gathering as part of academic process if you speak about. And analysis means like a feasibility study, as I mentioned already, and functional non-functional requirements gathering, like understanding the functional non-functional requirements, and also like what is the approach we are going for doing in the application. That all things will be done in the analysis phase. And the design, obviously UML diagrams will draw for the application to represent our all the aspects, like example, year diagram, sequence diagram, class diagram, use case diagram. So these are all the different set of diagrams which will represent your project. And definitely coding nothing but your application implementation only. And the testing means we need to test before going to deliver to the college or before showcase to the external or internal viva. So before that we need to test ourselves, and finally we are showcasing to the college or external interview. So that is what the delivery. But anyway, we as a student we don't have phase called maintenance because we never repeat the same project. But still, as I mentioned already, like if you want to continue the same project for further also, you can carry on so that are the how student life we are involving in the SDLC model. Okay. And based on these seven steps, the different people will given that different approaches. So one of that is waterfall model, and I'm talking about a very popular model, like another one prototype model, and incremental model, and very popularly, as I mentioned, Agile model. So these are the some of the popular models what we have in the market, but these are very traditional approaches. But we'll come back to the Agile model. So this is the model what currently in organization we are implementing or we are using to develop an application in effective and modular way. Okay. So now very traditional, like example, if you say, I'm just taking an example and you can understand easily. Like example, there is a 10 requirements. Okay. Hello. Yeah, tell me, Anna. Hello. Are you not able to see my screen? I already shared. One second, I will share. Just a second. But if you're not able to see my screen, immediately raise it. Okay. Like because sometimes maybe due to network it will get down automatically. But one second, I will share it. Is it my screen visible to you? Okay. Okay. Still no. And just a second. Give me a second. Now, hello. I'm not getting. Can you repeat anyone? Yeah, great then. Yeah, fine, great, great. Okay. So these are the seven phases I explained. See that? Yeah, I'm to come back to that one only. See, so these are the seven features what I mentioned in the just before. So one is requirement gathering, and second one analysis, third one design, and the fourth one implementation, fifth one testing and delivery, and finally maintenance. So come back to the first one. Requirements gathering means where we are trying to extract or understand, I mean, the gather the requirements from the end user so that we can implement very easily or simply. Without having more clarity on the requirements, we may go for wrong direction to develop it. So that's why the very first most step is requirement gathering. We need to more focused on understand the requirements. In your words, I can say that academic way. So first, whatever the title you submit to the college, so first you need to understand what is the title and what is the expected outcome in the title, and what is the input and what is the output. So that way you need to understand the title. And for that, generally we are spending in college ways like abstract and existing proposed and advantage disadvantages and modules, high level modules. These things will cover as part of requirements gathering. That's the first section. And coming to the second section, analysis. So analysis mostly talks about feasibility study, like what is the scope of application development, whether we can able to develop or not. So whether we can able to achieve within this particular time or not. So whether we require to purchase any software, or whether we need to require more resource, like more number of people to develop it. So such kind of analysis we will generally do in the analysis part. But whereas in analysis also it includes risk analysis also. Like example, what if, see, for example, your two persons are there, like example, one person quit the project. So what is the next approach for that? Or else you selected Python as a technology. Assume that tomorrow Python become paid version. Assume that today it's a free version, tomorrow it became like a paid version. Now what is the approach? So can we go with that? Are you bear with the cost, or are you migrate to any free version? So such kind of analysis also we need to do at the time of analysis when you go for real time project. But at the time of even our academics also, we need to spend some time, such kind of valuable time, to understand our project in terms of risk and also feasibility. And the third step, designing. So this is what exactly we are going for develop designing, I mean that showcasing the application how looks like in the future, or I can say that what are the functionality you're going to be implementing in the next phase, are that we are showcasing in high level pictorial representation. That is what we call design. So in real time we are generally using templates, but when academics way, we are generally going for UML diagrams, like example, use case diagram, or a class diagram, sequence diagram, and activity diagram, and year diagram, flow diagrams. These are all part of design only, because these are all diagrams will help you to draw the functionality in terms of diagrams. So as I mentioned already, so to design such kind of diagrams, we are using star UML as a software, and that I will explain how to draw that all diagrams so that you can easily understand. For your title you can try it. And the next, after design completing, now we need to start implementing the code, like whatever the functional requirements we committed to towards the project, that each and every functional requirement we need to implement in terms of coding. Now this is the place you need to showcase your coding skills, like Java, Python, .NET, whatever you learned. So you should showcase the technology or the technical skills here in terms of implementing your requirements. And then after that, you need to test it whether it is working as expected or not, other whether it is having any issues as expected, the functionalities. So that all part we are doing in the testing phase. And finally, once everything is done and once everything achieved, now we are delivering the respective outcome to the customer or end user. In terms of you, it is a college, so you need to showcase to your college internal and external guides. So that is the way how we will do in the project way. And now, to see, whatever the phase or whatever the approach or whatever the model, these seven steps are common. Like if you go for some USA or UK or India, these steps won't be changed. The only change is the process how we will implement it. That will depends on the company to company, college to college, and organization to organization. So that will change the how we are implementing that or how we are approaching that, but the steps are common for everybody, there is no doubt in that. And now such kind of models, whatever SDLC steps I am telling, by implementing that seven, what are the some models which implement more productivity, such kind of only we call SDLC models. So that is only what I written. Some of very popular are waterfall, prototype, incremental, and agile. But along with that, some more also there. Like example, VB model is there, spiral model is there, and also RAD model is there. But very popular these four, very traditional. But out of this again, these four are very traditional models, and these are most suitable for these four models: static requirements, and fixed, I can say the fixed requirements, and short term requirements. So that means if the project is very small, if the requirements are very clear with respect to implementation, then we can go with these particular three models. But if the requirements are dynamic, that means maybe one requirement may come tomorrow or may delete tomorrow, such kind of dynamic nature will be there. And also requirements always tend to change, so there is no guarantee that always there is a requirement fix. Assume that today you designed a login page in some way, tomorrow maybe client wants to design it some other way. So such kind of deviations if always welcomeable, then we can go for agile. And also long term projects. So generally, in these situations, agile approach is the best approach. So likewise, the companies will decide, will go for which model based on the requirements. Okay. So now, how they will implement in each model wise, I will explain by taking the 10 requirements. I mean that I'm just considering as that overall I have 10 requirements. So if you go for waterfall, how we will implement this 10 requirements? If you go for agile, how we will implement that approach, I will explain briefly. So maybe you may get brief clarity, I mean the brief idea on this particular models from this. So before going that, if you have any doubts, ask me, I will explain. Otherwise, I will go to that part. Any doubts? If you are not asking, sometimes randomly I will pick someone and I ask the doubts, and I will ask the questions also. So it's not like this is just listening and sleeping. So you just accurate and should be more attentive towards the class. And definitely I will ask the people some randomly. For example, what is testing or what is delivery, what we will do there, like what is outcome of the analysis, such kind of questions will ask definitely. So be is attentive. If you have a small doubt also, can ask me. I don't feel regarding any doubt. You just open up yourself and ask me the doubts, and don't bother about others, because everyone is equal now. No one is knows anything. That's simple logic. So think in such a way that and ask me whatever doubts you have. And also I'm telling very clearly, I don't feel at any time or any about any doubt. If it is small or big, doubt is a doubt, just clarify yourself, that's all. Okay. Because the X person doesn't make any help for the Y person doubt. So once you ask only, I can help, and even other people also aware that. Is it clear everybody? Okay, done. So now see, I'm just continue the topic. See, let us assume that we have overall 10 requirements. So now in waterfall, how we will do sir ante very traditional na. So first we are taking all 10 requirements. We will take it and we will analyze, and we will design them, and we will implement them, and we will test them. So if you see clearly in waterfall, all the 7 steps will do step by step and one by one. So it's a sequential approach, it's not parallel approach. It is sequential, like one by one we'll implement. But again, all 10 will taken as a one attempt only. We are not taking any portion or any part. We are taking entire 10 requirements at a time, and we are implementing each and every step by step, one by one. Like example, first we'll do the requirement gathering, 10 requirements gathering, then we'll do analysis, then we'll do design of 10 requirements, and then we'll implement testing, and then delivery. So like that the process will be going on. But here it is very risky process, because assume that if we got any stuck in designing, then it leads to waiting for all other teams in the lineup. Example, if you have a, you planned for 5 days of design, but you extend to 10 days, the remaining 5 days all the 4 teams will be waiting period only. So like that there is a more kind of waiting period will be there. And the second very most important here is, like for example, end of the delivery, like sixth time, at the time of sixth phase, client, you showed all the 10 requirements to the client as you implemented. assume that client is not satisfied with that requirements implementation. So now again you need to implement all the 10 from the step one, day one. So it gives a lot of loss or lot of what we can say that impact on the business. So such kind of problems we have in the waterfall. That's why it's a very old and legacy we're not at all implementing right now, because it's not suited for current trend. And now what we called prototype. So prototype also, we are taking all the 10 requirements at a time, but we are not directly going for development or implementing at all to the customer. So first we are making a prototype which is looks like a original one. Like that means we are generating a prototype by using a basic technology like HTML and CSS, and we are showcasing to the customer how it is navigating, how it is working, and how it is what we can say that the flow is coming. So that all we are showcasing, but we are not doing any coding part. Like example, we didn't do any backend integration, though it looks like a real one. So now we will showcase to the customer. If we really satisfied, then we can implement the same prototype to the original one. And this model is very good for real estate, exactly, if you know that. So in real estate also, most of the people won't directly construct the buildings or villas. First they will draw a model house, and that model house will show to the customers. If they like it, they can deliver. If they want to customize anything based on their suggestions, they can customize and deliver it. So like that, the prototype will help us to understand how it looks like in the future, and how it is working as like real. So that is the advantage of the prototype. But only problem is, if prototype itself is not liked by customer, again you need to recreate the one more prototype. So that is only the drawback, but remaining all everything is good enough when comparatively waterfall. And now coming to the incremental. So this is one approach where we are going for incremental way. That means bit by bit, not entirely we are developing at a time. First we are taking two requirements and we are developing, delivering, and then we will do the two requirements, we are developing, we are delivering. Like that we will do the a bit by bit incremental way approach to deliver to the customer. So what is the advantage in this model means, when you go for incremental model, say for example, if you to complete the 10 requirements, let us assume that it takes that 30 days of time, assume that. So now client has to wait for 30 days to see output and to give the feedback. If for example, as I mentioned, if we not satisfied, again 30 days you need to do for the entire work, again client needs to wait for 30 days. But if you go for incremental way, so same way, two requirements, just assume that two requirements, let's take example 4 days, assume that. So now within the 4 days, you are able to see, showcase some output, not entire output, but some output to the customer. Now you're able to get some feedback from the customer. Now you're taking the second two requirements. At that time, two things you can take care. One is the implementation of new two requirements, and also the feedback whatever the given by the client for the initial two requirements, you can cover that also in this week. So likewise, you can gradually increment the code, increment the logic, and increment the outcome, and also parallel you can take the feedback from the end user. So the risk is very less, and also the end user interaction will be more. So that means we are more on track to develop the application. So that's why incremental is very good approach to develop an application. So now, but all these are very good for fixed requirements only. But the requirements, if keep on changing by the customer, these are not at all feasible. As I mentioned already, example, waterfall, worst case, because if end of the time, if client change the requirement, again you need to do entire process once again. In the same way, prototype also, as I mentioned already, initially some design he told that he approved it, but after a few days, if he changed his ideas and designs, then team has to work on again from scratch, and incremental also same way. So that's why these are the models which are best for what we can say that static requirements. But if you want to work with dynamic, the Agile is the best. But very simply straightforward, I can say that Agile is also incremental model, but only difference in Agile is in incremental model there are two requirements whatever I told you, that will done first requirements, then analysis, then design, like waterfall only. So incremental model only the changes from the waterfall is the number of requirements, how much you taken, instead of all requirements you taken a few requirements. but the way how you are implementing is similar to waterfall only, like until you complete the requirements you cannot go for analysis, until you complete analysis you cannot go for design, so that will be won't change. But whereas agile, it's a completely cross functional teamwork, that means here we are working parallelly. So here no team is waiting for other team, so that means analysis, design, development, testing. All four works will happen parallelly in Agile, so that it's no waiting time for any team member. Everyone is on track and everyone is in progress only. And the second very most important in Agile is the particular development time is very less. For example, if you take waterfall, if it is taking 20-30 days or 6 months or 1 year, but Agile strictly follows mostly 15 days, I mean the 10 days to 15 days, so like that only they will script at the time. So within the time how much they can develop, see, in incremental, for two requirements you fixed, for two requirements maybe it takes 1 month, 2 months, 1 week, or 1 year also, there is no guarantee. But in Agile it's not like that, they working based on the timelines, not on the requirement basis. Example, they fixed the timeline 15 days, every 15 days, assume that. So now the way how they work, within the 15 days how much they finish, that they can show to the customer, take the feedback, continue the work. But it's not like that, whether you complete the requirement or whether you complete the half requirement, it's not like that. Within that time how much you complete, showcase that and take some feedback and continue that. So because of this reason what happened, it always encouraging that people to take the feedback, and even the changes also always acceptable, because within the 15 days whatever they develop, the client wants to take, or that he want to change, yes he can change, you can accept it and do that. If you don't want to change, as continue the remaining work. But there is not much impact on the entire process, so that is what beauty of the agile model. So this is how we will do in the general traditional SDLC steps, and how we will do in the model wise. So as of now, any doubt? If no doubt, I will go with agile little detailedly. Any doubt as of now? Hello? Yeah, fine. Yeah, the same seven steps what I mentioned, 1 to 7 in SDLC, how Agile will perform, we'll see briefly today now in this class. Okay. So is it my paint screen visible to you? Yeah, good. So now, hello? Anybody talks anything? Okay, great. So now you see, first what happened in Agile means, first end user, whatever the users, like generally I'm just taking for user, this one. So just imagine that he is the user. Okay. So now, 1 second. Okay. So now first thing is, from the clients are you what we can say, that end user, I can say that clients are end users are business people, business management, I can say that. So first will get the requirements from these people, because end user will be the person who decide what to implement and what to develop. So from these people, first the requirement should be captured and drafted, I can say that. Okay. So this particular drafting, who will do that, sir? Ante the person, there is a person in the company called product owner. So who will do that? Product owner. So this drafting of the requirements from the client will done by product owner, and or I can say that in general words, business analyst. Okay. So this is the one role in the company, whose role is drafting the requirements from the customer and explain the requirements to the development team, like what need to develop and what is the conditions and what is the expected output, that all things will be drafted clearly and will explain to the team to what to do. So that is the first develop product owner will do that. Okay. And what are the requirements given by the end users, he will make them into, as I mentioned, simple, clear and not diplomatic, and a very smaller and clean, make them into smaller and understandable requirements to the development team. Because as an end user, you will simply say that I want an application like Flipkart, but what to develop in the Flipkart, that kind of segregation will done by product owner. So that product stack only we call product backlog. So as a product owner, he will create a set of requirements for the development team to develop the application. Like example, requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3, requirement 4. So like that, he will create all the requirements as a list to the customer, I mean from the business people. Okay, so this particular list of requirements we technically called as product backlog. So product backlog means a set of requirements which are drafted from the customer. So or we can say that these are the requirements which are going to be developing. Okay. And now second task will done by the product owner is giving the priority to this particular requirements. Like example, there is a some set of requirements like 100, 200 is there. Now out of that 100, which one has to develop first, which one has to develop next, the sequencing, the we can say that the priorities. So that also will set by the what we can say the product owner. Like example, I can say this is 1, and this is 2, and like this is 3. So likewise the priorities will set by the product owner. So based on the priority only, now the develop team will choose the requirements and they start working on it. Because as I mentioned, they're not working all 100 or 200 requirements at a time. They're working only out of that few requirements which can be complete within 15 days or 10 days after the sprint time. I can say that within the days only we can, whatever they complete, that only they can take. And now in Agile strictly follows time boxing. As I mentioned, they're not working based on the requirement to complete, they're based on time to complete. So within the timelines only they should work. So that timeline we technically called as here, whatever the timeline is there. So this timeline is known as sprint. So generally in companies sprint, how it will decide means mostly it will be like 0 to 30 days mostly. So minimum 0, I mean that minimum 1 week, maximum 4 weeks generally. But ideal case is 2 weeks. So that is 10 days. So 2 weeks means two holidays will gone, only 10 working days will come. So this is the ideal case. So now we can say these 10 days is one sprint where you need to choose some set of requirements that can be completed. Like example, out of these 4 requirements, let us assume that you people decided to complete only one only, then take the one only. Let us assume that you people feel that yes, we can able to develop the 2 requirements within these 10 days, and then choose the 2 requirements. So likewise, based on your capacity, based on your capability, choose the set of requirements, but the condition is that should complete within this sprint time. Okay, so now assume that just we are planning for this 1 and 2 only. So that all discussion will happen in the a separate what you call channel will be there. So after product backlog there will be happening. So what is that means? Sprint planning. What is that? Sprint planning. So take simpler words, I can say that planning. So completely we can say that sprint planning. Yeah. So sprint planning will happen where the people will decide what to develop for this particular sprint. Example, as I mentioned, we need to decide like whether we need to go for 1 and 3 or 1 and 2, what to develop. So that decision will happen in the sprint planning based on the capacity. Okay, so this will happen generally day 1 of the sprint generally. Okay, and at that time only we will, as I mentioned, we will decide what to develop. Assume that we are planning to develop, as I mentioned, 2 requirements, that is 1 and 2. Assume that. Okay, so now we are going out of that 4. For this sprint we are planning for 1 and we are taking, assume that 2. Okay, so these 2 we are planning to complete. So now these 2 is the requirements for this iteration, not for entire project, nothing but this particular uh, product backlog. So these are the complete set of requirements what we have in the requirement product backlog. These are complete set. So I'm just taking as a n. So to make it more, and n number of requirements are there. Out of that n number of requirements, we will choose only 1 and 2 for this iteration. So these 2 requirements we technically called as sprint backlog means this is backlog for the respective sprint. In that sprint in this sprint only we are going to be developing these two. And now every day we'll start the work. That means day one will anyway see first one we conduct a meeting and we decided what to develop in this sprint. So definitely once we decided means we have to implement now. So we have to start working on that, like start to design them and start to develop them and start to testing on them. So like that we have to start this one and two requirements parallelly. So everyone will involve parallel. Like example, tester will do that work, their work, and developer will do that, and designer also will do parallelly in this particular 10 days. Okay, and now each day, like first day, second day, each day there will be a conducting one meeting called we call daily sprint meeting. So daily sprint meeting is nothing but daily updates, I can say that. So what we did yesterday or what we are doing today, so such kind of updates we can give in this particular meet. And also to monitor this entire process, this entire actions, there will be one person who has we has one person called, so to monitor this entire process, so we have scrum master. Okay, so he is the person who is acting as a leader for this particular team. So he will monitor entire particular work, how it is going on and how it is any problems or any impediments are there. To overcome that, this person will help us. And now as we keep on going, the work will be going definitely, and end of the day once it is done, we are showcasing in the 10th day this particular requirement to the end user, like whoever given the requirements, who given these people, right? To them we will showcase this particular outcome, so whether we are getting as expected or not. So that is we call outcome or increment we called. So that means once this 10 days completed, whatever we completed, we need to showcase to the end users. Now based on end user given the requirement, so he will see that and they will comment on that. Example, if you really complete the requirement as expected, then they will close it and we can move on to the next requirement. If you really not implemented as expected, definitely they will give some feedback on that, they will give some comment on that, and you need to work on the same requirement in the next sprint also. So like that the sprints will go on one by one, and we'll work on like that. And after each sprint we will have a feedback meeting also, like how the sprint went on and what we did good and what we did bad. Such kind of analysis we do in the retrospective meet. So like that is what my intention is, as well such kind of process where we will do a limited requirements in a limited time to interact more frequently, more what you call continuously with the client to get feedback and to implement more on parallel. So which may reduce the risk in outcome, and also which may reduce the particular what you can say that feedback, I can say that negative feedbacks, so that we can get more productivity and we can get more I can say that profits. So that is the way how Agile we are working in real time and how Agile is working in the real time. And the real picture I will showcase how the Agile would looks like. So the same model, how it looks like, I'm just showcasing so that you can clear understand about that. Yeah. So this is the Agile framework. So I hope you are able to see my screen. So if you are able to see here, just a second, I will make it more zoom. One second. Yeah. So I hope you're able to see my screen. See that what I explained. First, product owner will capture the requirements from the customers and he will prioritize the requirements into based on priorities, and that is we call product backlog. And in the sprint planning, the team will decide what to develop in the respective sprint. That is we call sprint backlog, and they will start work on continuously. So that might be 1 to 4 weeks, as I mentioned, and this entire process will monitor by Scrum Master. And as I mentioned, every day we have a daily stand-up meeting where we will discuss what we did yesterday and what we are going to be doing today, and also is there any problems. And end of the sprint, we are giving this finished work to demo to the customers. So that is how they represents a green color icon. So that is we call sprint review, so means showcasing the outcome. And end of the sprint, we will also discuss the feedback about the process, that is sprint retrospective. So likewise, we will do the activities. It's not like one time activity, it's a keep on process. So that's why we called Agile is incremental and iterative process. Incremental, why? Because we are not choosing all the requirements, we are choosing portion and bit by bit. And iterative means the same 15 days process will keep on continuing until your project will be completed. So that's why we called it is a purely incremental and iterative approach, and also it is a completely dynamic approach. So client at any time they can change the requirements, at the same time they can modify the requirements. So that is the beauty of the Agile. And as as you know already, waterfall, that all we so like waterfall model means, as very clearly very everyone knows that. So it's a very traditional approach like that. See that. So one by one, like once the requirements completed, analysis, design, like that, the step by step process we call waterfall model. And whereas like as I mentioned, prototype model means, so prototype methodology means first we will define the prototype and then we are showcasing to the end user, and based on that we are working on it like this. See that. First we are planning and developing a prototype, and we are showcasing to the end user. Once that showcasing completed, and if there is no changes, then we are starting implementation. If the changes happen, again we'll do the design and showcasing the prototype. So even I will showcase that prototypes also how it looks like. See that, for example, e-com app prototypes, you see, I'm just showcasing how it looks like, prototypes how it looks like, so you people can understand. Yeah, see that. If you see this set of screens, you can able to see the how it looks like in the future. Like example, if you see here, this particular prototype will showcase all the screens. See that in our application how it looks like, I mean to say. So based on this, client will get some idea. Okay, this is what you can say product details. When you click on the portal, how it looks like, the size and everything, and color changing, and how the cart looks like, that every page we are showcasing how it is look like in the future. So these sort of things only we call prototypes in generally what we call application development. So whatever it is, so these are all different example for prototypes only. So now once client approved the design, or once the client satisfied the particular prototype what we are showcasing here, so then we are just implementing what is there in that, just as it is we are implementing lively. See, this is one of the template, if you see that. So now if client is satisfied, like example this design how it looks like, then definitely as usual developer will implement and showcase to the customers. So likewise the prototypes are designed in real time. That is the prototype model basically. And as I mentioned, incremental means step by step only. So incremental model. Yeah, see that. So bit by bit, first we will start with a part build part one, and once it is done, then we'll go for part two. Then it's done part three, like that. So part by part implemented or portion by portion implemented, we call generally incremental models. So incremental model always help us to integrate, and I mean the develop and integrate and deploy. So such kind of environment we will follow generally. So this is how we will develop the application in different methodologies. So anyway, the ideology here is, as I mentioned, the 7 steps. There is no difference. But how we will implement it based on the situation and requirements and the timelines how they're given. So that is the way how the people will decide what to implement, how to implement it. But it purely depends on the management people. It's not on you and me. Like as a developer, as a tester, as a what you call designer, we cannot decide what model should be used. It will defined by management team and also business people like a CEO or a product manager. Such kind of senior people will decide what to follow. We just obey the orders which are given by the management people in organization generally. But as a learner or as a student, you should go with whatever the model you like it, and whatever the model you choose to implement in the real time, that you can practice as part of your project, academic project also. So this is all about model, like how it is and what it is. And if you have any doubt, please ask me. Does anyone have any doubt? Okay, great. No doubts. Okay, so then I'm stopping by here, and continue the remaining for the next class. And still, any more doubts, you can ping me in groups also. Like whatever you have WhatsApp groups individually, you can ping me in group also. So I don't mind. Like if you ping here, there, I will still respond over there if you have doubts. And it is not the time only time you can ask. You can ask the doubts in group also whenever you have. So I will respond there. Okay. Then have a nice evening. Bye. Take care. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned, right? Like maximum four and minimum two. It looks like one, mostly 1 hour. Yeah, yeah, fine.